Hello and welcome. It's Motivational Monday, and Jim and Lucy here, and our special guest is Bracha Goetz. Today we'll be talking to you about how to overcome overeating and do it with joy without, this heavy feeling, oh, I have to diet. Because all know all these times, right? When you have this feeling, I have to stop eating, I can't have that donut. Jim knows a lot about donuts. He hasn't touched one, even in Canada, for over a year. So,
Wow.
I really want to.
Hello, Bracha. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. I want to hear why you haven't touched a donut in over a year.
Oh, let's put it this way. My son once told me that what does he say? He said, an ounce on the lips is a pound on the hips.
Yeah.
And I still remember that.
Yeah, that's great. That is great. Very good. Okay, terrific. And do you feel joyful about it? Avoiding the donut?
I do when I get on the scale.
Oh, good.
And
that's great.
The puppy doesn't call me chubby hubby anymore.
Very good. Terrific. Wonderful. Okay, good. Yeah.
Oh, Bracha, tell us more. You picked the topic. So how
Okay.
our listeners go about this wonderful journey of stop overeating and do it with joy?
Exactly. So why do we overeat? Like, if we've had a good meal, why do we just want to keep going? That's the hardest part. It's not like eating the donut that's the problem. It's, wanting another donut, more and more. It just keeps going. Why do we want to overeat? Do you have an idea?
Because it feels good.
I think we're trying to compensate. I'm just guessing, trying to compensate for something.
Yeah, both exactly. We experience pleasure when we eat this stuff, and what we really want is lasting pleasure in life. That's what we all want. So when we experience this fleeting pleasure, we want it to keep going. If we feel a scarcity of pleasure in our lives, so we feel like just stuffing our face, keep the pleasure going, because I don't have enough pleasure, so I better keep eating, or doing whatever other addiction there is, because we feel this scarcity of pleasure in our lives. So what is the way to overcome that joyfully? To have a sense of abundance of pleasure in our lives. How can we have this sense of abundance of pleasure in our lives? So what I learned about, and this is based on ancient mystical wisdom, is called the pleasure ladder. I'm just going to hold up a chart. It's a basic chart, but I have a more involved chart. But this is the lowest level of pleasure. Now, it's got 5 rungs on it. This is not from my head. This is ancient mystical wisdom. It's got 5 rungs on the pleasure ladder, and that corresponds to what? Our 5 fingers. In other words, we have the power to bring pleasure into our lives any moment. It's totally empowering. It's within our hands. We can be living a life of pleasure every moment. How? By filling up on gratitude. So here's the thing. The lowest level are all the natural physical pleasures in this world. Oh, I forgot to mention, the 5 levels, besides corresponding obviously to our 5 fingers, they also correspond to the 5 levels of the human soul. And the lowest level of the soul is the part that's attached to our body. So when we get joy, pleasure from natural physical things in this world, like healthy food, or being in nature, or music, or exercise, dancing, swimming, gardening, whatever, movement. These are natural pleasures. when we experience these natural pleasures with mindful gratitude, it nourishes both our body and our soul. So, like, I love to give the example of an orange. An orange is a natural physical pleasure designed to fill us up, nourish both our bodies and our souls. Picture it like when the fruit are growing on the trees, they're all green. They're camouflaged in with the leaves. And when they're ready, they become as bright and beautiful as possible. They're calling, we're ready, like that. They're calling our attention. They're so vibrant. And all of this is just to give pleasure to our eyes. And they smell beautiful. So all our senses are getting involved. And an orange, it's covered with this strong peel. It keeps the sweet juiciness in for months. It's amazing. And then when we finish the experience of the orange, we're left with these seeds. And these seeds, they amazingly become trees, and they become infinite amount of more oranges. So compare that to an orange flavored tangy taffy. You know, it tastes good for 2 seconds while it's in our mouth. We only experience the taste for a couple of seconds till we swallow it. And then it's just doing damage to our bodies like the donuts, and it doesn't help us like the orange. And then even the wrapper pollutes the environment, nothing like the orange, where the peel and the pits is all good for the earth, to regenerate it. So junk is created out of greed, to be as delicious as possible and as addictive as possible. And the natural foods are designed to be delicious and nutritious, like totally different kinds of species of things. So that's just the lowest level of pleasure. So imagine if we experience all these things with gratitude, it fills us up. And like, we're not going to eat a whole bag full of oranges, but we'll finish a whole bag of potato chips, or a whole container of ice cream, or a whole box of chocolate chip cookies if no one's looking, because it's addictive and it's not like the orange. It doesn't fill us in the same way and make us feel grateful afterwards. So, should I keep going up the ladder, or do you want to ask any questions? Or
no, let's go to the next one.
Okay, great. So the next level is love. Now, love, who would think that's empowering? You think it's dependent on somebody else. But here's the ancient definition of love is focusing on the virtues of another. What do you value? What do you appreciate about someone else? So even in prison, in solitary confinement, you can bring love into your life just by focusing on the virtues of another. They don't have to be there with you. You can bring love into your life at any moment by being grateful for someone else. Like, let's say a grandmother that once did a kindness for the prisoner. He can be uplifted and inspired, uplifted emotionally with feelings of love without the person being present. And because it nourishes your soul with gratitude, feeling grateful for another. Why do we have addictions? Because of disconnection. We feel lonely, estranged. By doing gratitude brings connection. It's a connecting force. So when we feel gratitude for the orange, or for dancing, that our bodies can move, this is how we bring connection back in, and it takes away the power of the addiction. When we bring on the higher level, we're connecting to another being, not just a thing. And so that brings even greater connection. Moving up, what brings even more pleasure is meaning, doing something good and meaningful. I was on another show. When I got to this level, the host said that the other day he was feeling lonely and miserable, and he bought a pizza. He ate 2 slices of pizza, and he was about to plow through the whole box of pizza. Someone knocks on his door, his neighbor. He needs his help for 2 minutes, comes back. He doesn't want the pizza anymore. What changed in that 2 minutes? He helped somebody. He felt grateful that he could help someone. He filled up with gratitude, and he could put the rest of the pizza in the fridge for another day. It works instantaneously to fill up with gratitude. Then the bag of potato chips stops calling your name in that loud voice because you filled up already. You're not feeling a scarcity of pleasure anymore. What's higher than meaning, doing something meaningful? This is surprising. It's doing something creative. It's putting a unique part of yourself into the world. When you do that, when you're doing something creative, you don't feel like eating or sleeping, and time doesn't matter. You're like in a zone that's such high pleasure, it's beyond time. So that's the pleasure of creativity. And it's even more connection. You're putting a unique part of yourself into the world, connecting with the world. The highest level of all is called transcendence. This is when we connect to everything. We feel connected to everything. We feel connected to the source of all energy. It's like what you experience under a starry, starry sky at night. I know when I experienced that as a child, it stays with me forever. And they say that that feeling of awe and wonder is the highest state to be in. That I read recently research that your body actually creates the most disease-fighting chemicals when you're in the state of awe and wonder. It's the highest state. It's also when the veils of separation between people just go away, they evaporate, and you see the soul of the other person, and you feel the connection. And it's even when you transcend your own limitations, you become a new level of person. Like when you begin to break a bad habit, it's the most exhilarating feeling there is. So it's that sense of oneness. Knowing this is what can help a person overcome addictions of all kinds joyfully, because now you know how to fill up the emptiness within. It's a genuine hunger. Now you know how to fill it up, because what you really need is gratitude. That's the only price you need to pay to climb the pleasure ladder, is gratitude.
Yeah, Bracha, I appreciate that. That is really excellent. We've been hearing for the last several months now that there's an epidemic in not only America and the world, but about loneliness. I happen to hear about the Airbnb executive, the founder of the company, that talked about after he went over several $billion one day. He said he spoke to President Obama, and he said one of the biggest problems he's going to have is being lonely. Well, I can't imagine that, but still, that's what he said. And then
Yes.
I listened to the news this morning about a man who had terminal disease, and he talked about his committing suicide, attempting to several times. And we hear about the teenagers that are committing suicide. And I'm wondering, I heard this old thing years ago when I was homeless once, and it said that depression and gratitude cannot coexist.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, like you just said, having this transcendence of love and caring about other people and giving your time for others, like your neighbor did with the pizza.
Yes.
Going out and doing something else, how it erases that feeling about woe is me.
Yes, exactly. You know, we heard of all these things being helpful, but I never understood why they help us. I heard volunteering is helpful, exercising is good, eating healthy. This made it all clear to me. It actually nourishes our hungry souls. This is what we were meant to be doing in life. Feeling gratitude. It's really our whole purpose for being here. We have, like you said, we have an entitlement epidemic. Everybody now feels entitled to things. They expect it. We take everything for granted, and that takes away the pleasure. Like you said, any minute that we are experiencing gratitude is a moment we're not being miserable. So just keep those minutes coming. The more gratitude we experience, the less miserable we are. It's that simple. And that's really our purpose for being in this amazing garden. We've gotten really far away from it, but we can come back through such a simple means by practicing mindful gratitude as much as we can, because the more we exercise the gratitude muscle, the stronger it becomes. We know that our brains have neuroplasticity. The more neural pathways we create by experiencing gratitude, the easier it becomes to be grateful.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Bracha, it's such a valuable information, and I hope our listeners make notes. And if you didn't, we will have some little bit of notes in the description to this episode, but you'll have to listen to it again. Luckily, you have access to the recording.
Yes, you do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Bracha. I do believe that this ladder of pleasure is not just the tool to overcome the problem of overeating, but many other problems as well.
Exactly. It's universal. Exactly. It's a very good analogy because it fills you up. So it's very clear with food addictions, but it applies to all. It applies to addictions, loneliness, anxiety, sadness, all feelings of estrangement, because what this brings is connection. That's what everybody is craving. And the connection is the gratitude. We are being cared about. We are being loved. It is how we can experience this self-compassion through recognizing that we have so much to be grateful for.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing. We are grateful that you joined us today, that you shared this relevant information. We also have to mention that we are grateful to our sponsor of this month, the Type Dreams, beautiful digital art collection for your social media or print and marketing needs or anything else. Even if you want to create a card, visit typedreams.site. Thank you very much. That was Bracha Goetz. Thank you for joining us, and it was a pleasure having you, and hoping we'll have you again as a guest soon.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
This is Motivational Monday
by Jim and Lucy. Follow our podcast
and check out our website, jimandlucywoods.com.